And I am going to start the event. So the way we're gonna proceed is I have a list of questions that I will ask them, and I will ask each one of you to answer the same question, and then we'll move from there, and then after that, we can open it up to you guys for Q&A. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, can you please tell us what's new and what do we as business owners need to consider when filing in 2023? And I'll start with you, Lucida, as the lady, if you don't mind.
What's new this year? Not most of the rules remain the same from 2022 to this year. There has not been a lot of changes. However, people need to be aware that they are more strict with the way that they are navigating through the system of taxes now because everything is electronically. You can't just do anything on your taxes because they are paying more attention than before. So you need to, whatever you're doing, keep notes, keep records, and make sure your taxes being filed with the proper information.
Awesome. Rick, can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Just like you said, most of the laws are the same, right? And so there's things that change that are just thresholds, right? So whether it's the standard deduction, you get more, whether it's the tax rates, they kind of adjust from a inflation standpoint. They're trying to give you that break to help you out. And then the other thing to pay attention to is just when they're talking about all these laws and they're trying to pass things, they're talking about future changes. So a lot of times from year to year, you're just trying to pay attention to what they're trying to pass through Congress and through the House.
Awesome. Antonio, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so what I can add about the refund, this year, we're gonna see significant changes in the refund due to child tax credit. That's a decrease. The provision with the COVID-19 that increased the tax child credit or dependent credit gonna decrease this year. For instance, the advance, child tax credit, they used to give as from 3,600, going back to 2,100. So we're gonna see some changes, in those provision this year.
So that's interesting. So if I'm a business owner, you're saying pretty much the taxes are gonna be the same in terms of there's not that many changes that you can think of. Are there any tax laws on the horizon that we should be mindful of that may impact the way we do business? I'll start with you.
I think, so like when I mentioned the thresholds, right? So as an example, they had bonus depreciation was in place, right? It's still in place, but the threshold dropped, right? So prior to this year, you were able to do 100% depreciation on assets that you purchased into your company. Well, now this year it's only 80%, right? So you have a drop there. So anybody who didn't take advantage of that, it's 100. It was 100, so you missed out on 20. But next year it's going to be 60. The year after that's going to be 40. And until it goes away, then depreciation will get back to what it normally was, which, depending on the asset, 5 years, 10 years that you divide the cost to, right? So it's things like that. I know they talked a lot about 1099 filing requirements, and they pushed that back to 2024. So that's something else to kind of think of when you're looking in the future for your businesses.
Do you know why they're changing the regulations around the depreciation from 100% to 80 and then scaling it down?
That was something, number 45. That's the former President Trump. I call him number 45.
And
that was something he put into place.
Yeah,
so,
he put it in place to help a lot of businesses because we were struggling during the, a pandemic, so he wanted to help a lot of businesses. Excuse my voice, I woke up this morning.
Do you need water?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So he put that in place, and that was helping a lot of businesses. Now that everything is getting back to somewhat more inflation,
Okay.
whatever, so it's.
So what I'm hearing is that in the past, it wasn't 100%. That was a change, and now we're going back to the
To the
way
same.
it
Correct, yeah.
used to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when he put it in place, it was always set to teeter off.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good to know. Antonio, anything else you want to add? Any upcoming regulations and taxes that you can think of?
No, not much that I'm doing.
Okay.
One thing I will bring up that's kind of prevalent in the news now, it hasn't gotten to that place, but they talked about getting rid of income tax. I know some of you might have heard of that. So that's a bill that they put on the table that they're gonna discuss it. So that's something pretty big to look at, right? And the way they put it out there is that they would get rid of income tax, but they would increase sales tax on all products, consumer goods and things like that. So you'd get more money in your check, but then at the grocery store, you may pay like a 20% tax on your milk, right? So, that's something to keep, paying attention to. It may not pass
May
in
not
its
pass,
form,
yeah.
but a variation of something may still go through, so it all depends. That was put forth by the Republicans, so.
Is that just in Georgia, or would that be a nationwide?
It would
That's
be
nationwide, and that's on the federal
Yeah,
side.
that's on the
though.
federal side.
Yeah, so if federal side got rid of those taxes, you still may have state taxes throughout.
So here's the deal. So I've been an attorney for 25 years, but it's my first year launching my business. So needless to say, I know the subject matter in terms of the law. I know nothing about running a business. So with that being said, what are some tips you have for someone that's maybe in their first year? How do I keep up with my records? What are some tips, something I need to keep in mind?
I'll answer. As a woman, I would say the first thing, you need to be very organized. Organization is the key, because and you need to make sure you manage your books properly, and you do everything through your business account, because it's easy for you to, because you cannot remember what you did the first year in January. So if you have everything going through your business account, it's easier for your accountant to go back and see the expenses that happened during the year. So organization is the key for somebody that's just started. And then from there, you need to hire somebody that can manage it properly for you, to make sure that you know the laws, the steps that you need to take, you're not commingling with your bank account and things like that. So I'm very big on that. The first thing you have to do for me is to make sure that your documentation is in place, because from there, we can proceed to the next step.
And I'm gonna come back to commingling in a minute, but let's go to Antonio.
No, so it's a good record keeping, segregate your accounts to know what goes where, and then avoid, commingling.
That's the
And
key
I'm gonna
word.
come back to commingling. How about you, Rick?
I would say, you know what, I'm gonna go with, there's a mindset shift that needs to happen from employee to business owner, right? Because as an employee, you get paid, our Uncle Sam takes money out, and then you get to live off the rest, right? But for a business owner, you can get paid, you can take some expenses, some deductions, you can, classify certain things that may have been a personal expense, but they're business expenses now, and then Uncle Sam gets what's left over, right? So your mindset starts to shift, and you gotta think a lot more forward thinking as a business owner compared to an employee, right? You gotta think about, where's my money coming from next month, next week? Whereas an employee, you're say, I'm showing up, I'm gonna get paid regardless.
Direct deposit.
Direct deposit, even if you took a 2-hour lunch break, right? You're gonna still get your money if you're on salary. But as a business owner, you're not, so you gotta start thinking about what are the things that are really bringing my company money versus just wasting time and not making myself money.
Okay. And I can attest to
Time
that about the mind
management.
shift set that needs to happen, because I'm a company man. That means I go to work and my direct deposit hits every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh my God, if I don't hunt and I don't kill, I don't eat. So that's like different. With that being said, one of the things that I know happened in the beginning is, the business wasn't making money. So I used my own personal funds to start up the business. So what are some advice that you have when someone is doing that? How do they keep it separate, like, how do you account for that?
I'll take, so I always say you need to create at least 1 degree of separation. And so what that means is this, right? So even if you're using your personal funds for an expense, send your personal funds to your business account, right? And then whatever expense that is, you pay for it out of your business account. So you created 1 degree of separation because you personally didn't pay for it, your business paid for it, right? And so that's one way to go about it. And credit cards are good for a business credit card, right? Because if you have an expense that you need to pay for today and you don't have the money in your business account, use your business credit card to pay for it, and then you can contribute that cash to your business account later on, right? So that's something you want to do, and then keep records of it, right? Like she mentioned earlier, you want to be able to open up that bank account. So as soon as you know I'm starting a business, go ahead and open that bank account, right? Once you have your LLC, your business registered, and get your EIN, the banks will let you open your bank account in your business name. You just may need $25 or whatever the case may be to open that account. So go ahead and do that from the beginning. So that way you can start to create those record keepings and make
And
sure
not
that
commingle.
commingling.
Yeah. Another thing I was gonna say, I usually tell clients to write a note, write, a loan to the business.
Right.
So that you know and you're aware that when you're looking at that note, that was the amount that I took and I put into the business to start the business. Because you may not remember everything, but just every time you're taking your money, just write, a note. So at the end of the year, you can add all of them and know that the business owe you that money in case you didn't do your books right, beforehand.
And you bring up a good point, because that is something I advise small business owners that are starting out, making sure they have that loan document as part of the business record to demonstrate that they took their personal funds and loaned it to the company. And then I'm gonna ask you guys if you can get into how you deal with that later, like, is it a distribution? Like, how do you deal with paying yourself? We'll get into all that. I wanna see if Antonio has anything to add to the question I had asked about, like, how do you make sure you're not commingling your assets?
Yeah, so it's the separation from your personal income, personal money to the business, as you loan it to the business, and this is how you're gonna treat it. A coming tax season. That's how you're gonna treat it, as a loan to the business. It's separate your personal and business expenses.
So thank you for that. I'm gonna open it up, but I'm looking at everybody. This is going well so far. You're getting some good tips. I know I'm getting some good tips, so thank you. I'm just gonna pick your brain as much as I can, because that's what people do to me. They're like, Sandra, I have a quick legal question. I'm like, no, you gotta pay me. But, because remember, I'm not an employee. Well, now I am again. I went back. But when I was having to hunt and kill so that I can eat, I'm like, that's my time. You gotta pay me. So going back to what we're saying, salaries for self-employed. So when you're an employee, I think you were saying your direct deposit comes in every other week or whatever, how often you get paid. Now you own a business, and let's just say the business is profitable. You've had some clients, you were able to charge them, and they actually paid you. So now you got some positive money. How do I get paid as the owner? And I'll start with you, Antonio.
Yes, you can set a payroll, for yourself as you're setting it up for your employees. Your bank, your accountant, can set the payroll for you, or you can use, the bank services to help you do that. Put yourself on a W-2.
So what does that mean? I'll go right into you, Lucida. So
To add up on what he says, what I usually do an exercise with my clients. If you are a self-owner, you're self-employed, you don't know anything, what I always tell you, look for 6 months, how your business been doing, and how are you able to pay your bills? Because the business is paying your bills, and you don't know that, right? Because you're taking it from the business. So I'll tell my clients, let's do a worksheet. write out all your bills that you are able to pay on a monthly basis. And once you do that, this is the amount that I'm gonna pay you on payroll on a monthly basis. Because if you take it out of your account yourself, it's not deductible, right? Because it's not an expense, because you're taking company money. However, if you know the exact amount that you need, and then we put it on payroll, you pay the tax on it, now it's an expense for your company. So I always do that with all of my business clients before we get started on that.
Those are some of the strategies that a layperson wouldn't necessarily know until you go to a tax person and you say, okay, help, I'm lost, and then they sit and walk you through these strategies. So I love it. What do you have to add to that in terms of?
What I'll add too, because, there's different ways, right? So you have the payroll, you have where some business owners that, especially ones that are self-employed or just have an LLC, they're taking owner draws, right? And so my thing is definitely whichever route you go, you want to be consistent and you want to have an actual structure, right? So if it is paying yourself every 2 weeks or once a month or even once a quarter, if you can, do one lump sum and kind of budget off of that, just make sure you're doing something, consistent and have a specific structure to it.
Okay, and you just touched upon something that I was gonna ask about, filing taxes for a business. As an employee, I wait until I get my W-2 from my employer, and then I file my taxes. As a business owner, is it once a year, is it quarterly, how do you, and I'll start with you, like.
Yeah, so there's different intricacies, right? So there's still an annual filing that you do. Payroll taxes are quarterly. And then you also have, if you're dealing with self-employment taxes, those are quarterly as well. So it just depends on how you're structured. If you're paying payroll, those have a different deadline that you're not even aware of when you're an employee. And so that's what I'm saying, there's a mindset shift, right? Because your employer is taking your taxes out of your paycheck and then they're paying it for you according to a certain deadline. So now as a business owner, if you have employees or if you have yourself on payroll, then now you have to be aware, or your accountant's gonna be aware of those deadlines and make sure you have to pay those according to that schedule. So you have multiple deadlines, and depending on how your business is structured, and then that's what you be paying.
And to add on that also, businesses think it's just income tax that they have to deal with. There's more than just income tax. We deal, depending on the type of business you're in, we have to do sales tax. We have to do, if you're a truck driver, we have to do 2290s. Like, if you hire us, we have different taxes that we have to do for you based on what he was saying in terms of the deadline. So you have to know these things so we can guide you and tell you, hey, you need this tax to be done, you need this tax. It's not just income tax. A lot of time business owners think when they hear taxes, they only think of income tax. They don't know that there's other taxes that are in place.
Exactly. So when in filing, taxes, especially for self-employed, if you don't want to pay a lump sum, taxes at the end, you can set up a estimated quarterly taxes, where you can pay, you estimate how much you'll be making, for the quarter, and then you send some money to Uncle Sam. And also, if you're running your own payroll, you draw your W-2s, and you also know that you have to set up separate account with the state, so the state can allocate the tax payment that you're making. For instance, I have a client who came to me with she gave herself a W-2. She paid, taxes on her income with IRS, but the state, he didn't open an account with the state, and then when he sent money to the state cannot, allocate it, don't know where to put, that money, what to use that money for. Yet, yes, you have, besides the EIN number that you take from the IRS, you have to open an account, a separate tax account with the state.
With the Department of Revenue.
Department of
in
Revenue.
Georgia,
Yeah.
yeah. I had to learn that too.
Yeah, as well as the Department of
That's very
Labor,
important,
and,
yeah.
Okay.
government is all segregated, so there's
If you
different
have
ones, yeah.
employees, if you, yeah. So you talked about W-2s and we mentioned 1099s earlier. Tell us a little bit as business owners, because that's all new to me too. What are the regulations around 1099s? Like, how do they function? And I can start with you. Greg.
Yeah, so the 1099 is pretty much Uncle Sam's way to track who's getting paid by who, right? And so because if someone's a 1099 contractor, right? And so you hire them, let's say it's a photographer, videographer, right? And you pay them a certain amount of money. No one's tracking that. There's no W-2. So Uncle Sam had to figure out, how can I find out how much this contractor got paid? And then they said, you know what, I'm gonna have these businesses put out a 1099. So they send a 1099 to the IRS as well as to the individual. So the law is, if you're paying a contractor over $600, you have to give a 1099 to the IRS. So that way they know you got paid. I've dealt with clients to where they did not include their 1099 in their income. And then later on, the IRS came back and said, well, hey, I see this additional $10,000 you didn't report 2 years ago. You owe us this much taxes. Here's the penalty, here's the interest. So that's what the 1099 is for, right? It's a way for them to track the income. As a business owner, I would tell business owners this: if you're tracking your income, then even if someone gives you a 1099 or not, you should know how much income you receive for the year. I have some business owners that they so much are waiting for that 1099 to come in to know how much money they receive, but you should be tracking it and you would know. When you do receive a 1099, it's just your notice, but it's really up to the individual, the other business that's sending you the 1099. So that's the main requirement to it.
So you said 1099 applies to 600 or more. So if
600
I
or
make
more. 500,
500, I don't have to do anything? I could just
If you
kind of,
if you
You
paid
paid.
if you paid someone
or if I
500,
paid someone,
500,
not if I brought in.
correct? Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to create a 1099 and send it to the IRS and send it to that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, so this is for you, Lucida. How do you generate those 1099? Cause.
I have each of my clients, we have meetings once a month. And we talked about who they are paying, because when you look at their books, once you manage a business, you know their ins and out of that business. So you don't even have to tell me what you're doing. I can go to your QuickBooks and say, okay, what is that? What is that? And from that, I'm able to say, okay, you have Rick on your list here 10 times. Rick got over $2,000. We need to give Rick a 1099, because if we don't do that, we won't be able to deduct it or to give you that tax deductions,
Yeah.
per se.
And then that's the W-9, because I had some of my
Yes.
clients that sent me the W-9 to fill out, and I'm like, I'm not filling it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But,
lawyers and CPA, legal and professional, you don't have to do a 1099. So don't put that. Don't put that out.
okay, so I don't
You don't
have
have
to.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. There's certain
People.
professions that have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lawyers and CPAs and accountants, we don't have to.
Finally, one thing we get.
We don't have to.
Okay, so we talked earlier, and I don't know if you wanted to add anything to the 1099 conversation.
No, that's very important, that a certain, small business, owners, they providing service, to some clients, or they receiving money to some clients where they don't know. Yes, they are obligated, to receive, to receive a 1099. Yet, depending on who they do in the business, with, they don't know whether they're gonna get the 1099, or not. When they come, to you, they said, yes, I made that money, but these people, they're not gonna provide me a 1099. What do I do? I tell you, so you need to contact, the company. Some of them, they don't have, good record keeping, good, accounting system, going. I said, don't rush, to go, because, before we have to do amendment, Uncle Sam, call, say, hey, I have more, more income, for you that you're not reporting, you under-reporting, so you need, to check your record, who you work for, who is obligated, to provide you a 1099 before you come and file your taxes.
And so since you're talking, I said, you mentioned records, so I'm gonna start right with you. What are some records that, a small business owner, and I've been focusing on small business owners because I'm making this all about me, but, so what are some records that a small business owner needs to keep? And I know it won't be an exhaustive list, but if off the top of your head, if you can think of some quick ones.
It's expenses, payroll, uh, anything that attribute, to you owning the business. Any expense, that, attribute to you owning the business.
How about me getting a facial so I can present my best self to my clients?
Oh,
Does
now,
that-
now you're talking, if it's a business expense, you taking clients, out, to eat or to entertain, there are some limitation, to that too, how much you can deduct.
Massages, because they stress me out. No?
No, no. So the IRS says it has to be, so what's the words they use? Reasonable and necessary.
Reasonable.
Yeah, reasonable and necessary. So, as an example.
Who knows?
Yeah, so as an example, right, so there's so many of us wearing suits, right? So they're saying, well, your suit can't be an expense as a uniform for your business because you can wear your suit to church, you can wear your suit to a wedding, right? But if you are, let's say I have a client that's a spinal surgeon, he wears scrubs and everything, that's specifically for the medical field, so he can deduct all his, scrubs and everything. So that's the biggest thing is, and you still have some wiggle room though on certain things.
I was
right?
gonna
So-
add something, sorry to cut
Yeah.
you off. So in the suit, just because we're on suit, I tell my clients, put a logo in it. Put a logo on it, and
Okay.
it's a business, it's a business attire. So if you wear suits all the time, so make sure
That will be a uniform.
it becomes a uniform.
Yeah, that becomes
And
the
again-
branding at that point,
Right.
The
yeah.
branding.
And again, those are the intricacies that you don't know if you're not talking to an expert because, it's creative.
Yes.
But it works because.
But that's why
it-
they pay us the money.
Right,
It's for the
right.
brand.
Good. Any other records you can think of that's just, if you had to give some advice about make sure you keep these?
Um,
It used to be hard. It used to be harder back in the days when we had to deal with
Yeah, shoe
papers, shoe
No.
boxes. Now it's pretty easy. It's,
Okay.
as long you have a good accountant and we have a good QuickBooks system and we have everything in place, I think it's pretty
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, the main thing is being disciplined. and
Discipline.
Tracking it, right? I would say, like I mentioned earlier about assets and depreciation, so those big asset purchases,
Make note of
purchasing a
them.
car, for the caterers, right? If you purchase some type of, kitchen equipment, you wanna make sure you're having that record in there because once you wanna add it in, then you wanna make sure you have that. So it's those type of records, mileage. Mileage is a big one. Nobody likes to track mileage. If you're saying, hey, I did 8,000 miles for my business, if you get audited, they're gonna say, show me that you have 8,000 miles. And so if you are doing it based off of appointments, going to see clients, I'm gonna say cater because I keep looking over there, going to your catering appointments, things like that. So you wanna kind of keep track of that. So things like that outside of just normal expenses is what you wanna try to track.
I want to add something with depreciation. What I find in my office, people would not have proper record because once you do depreciation, like you said earlier, it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? Let's say you don't like Lucida anymore, you don't want to come to me. You need to have that record because I need to know what was the previous depreciation you took before. So you have to have record of that for me to be able to determine what's the actual depreciation that you are entitled for this year. So that's another record that you have to think about when you think about record.
And you bring up a good point, because I want to ask about the difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction. And Antonio, you haven't talked, I can
Well-
start with you.
Well, what I will say, before we get to this about the record, knowing, what to deduct and what not to deduct. So it's not, like Rick said, it's no brainer. It's not something that you need to struggle with. Once you set up, your chart of account, earlier, you know, in the business, you already know what is deductible, what type of expenses gonna incur, you know, that pertain to your business, you know. So as far as, you know, tax, tax credits, you know, a tax, you know, that credited to you, that, for instance, you know, child tax, you know, credit, a dependent care credit, you know, income, you know, earned income credit, you know, these are credits, you know, or it can be, for deductions, for deductions, is deductions that you're taking, you know, for instance, you know, business, you know, deductions, you know, and all. So that this is, you know, how you can reduce your tax liability, the tax credit, you know, and deductions, you know, to reduce your tax liability. As people come into you, clients come into you and say, you know, well, I need you to make me some money, but, you know, the tax laws, you know, already drawn, you know, for that, you know, what you can do, what you cannot do. You can avoid paying taxes, you know, tax, you know, avoidance, you know, is not, you know, legal, you know. Tax avoidance, you know, is not legal. Avoidance, you know, can be through deceit, you know, or concealment, you know, that, you know, the IRS, you know, gonna get you for that. When you come, you know, to us, you know, you don't say, you know, hey, who can make me more money, you know? So this is not gonna go.
Rick, anything you want to add between the tax credit? I mean, I heard child tax, dependent, I don't have any of those. So
So-
anything else?
So the difference between like the credit and deduction, it's a mathematical difference, right? So, you know, you have, like you said, the liability. So you have your taxable income, which is, and I'm trying to say this to not be too mathy, right? So you have your taxable income, which is, this is what Uncle Sam is gonna tax you on. So that determines how much taxes you owe, right? So a deduction can say, you can tax me on less. So if you had $50,000 of taxable income, you have a deduction of 10,000. Now you can, you know, say like, hey, tax me on this 40, right? So everybody follow? So tax me on the 40,000. So that's a deduction, 10,000 of deduction, right? Let's say we're going back with the 50,000, 10% tax. So let's say the taxes owed is $5,000. But then now you have child tax credit, you're gonna get 1,500. So you don't owe them 5,000 anymore, you owe them 3,500.
Okay,
So that's
so
the
the deduction.
To clarify, just a little bit, tax credit, it's money you're getting.
Right,
That's
that's
your
okay,
money.
that's what I was gonna
The
say.
deduction is what decreases
Your
your
liability.
liability.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And also you do that, you know, to the separation, you know, with a standard deduction and itemized deduction. So the standard deduction, it's a credit that you already get, you know, on top of everything before any deduction that reduce your tax liability on the income that you make, you total for the year.
Yeah, so you hear a lot this adjusted gross income. You always hear that term. That's what a lot of banks, you know, grants, lenders to go off of. That's your top income. They took deductions out and they brought you down to this number that's been adjusted because those were deductions.
Okay, great conversation. I'm looking at the time, so I'm gonna turn it over to you guys for questions, but I do have one more, and I'm gonna ask each one of you about some best practices, in general for business owners or just individuals even. But in addressing the best, practices, one thing that comes to mind is even the way you form your company and the tax liability, because I know, Lucida, I was talking to you about it, and I'm like, huh? S Corp versus C Corp versus LLC, and how they're taxed differently, and what, you know, what to keep in mind, and then some other best practices that you can think of. So I'll start with you, Rick, and we'll go to Lucida, and then Antonio.
So best practices, I would say, like we've already talked about, you know, commingling. Like I said earlier, credit cards are definitely good to help with that. Also, there's one thing that is, whether it's tax or just more business profit, but when I talked earlier about that mindset shift, one of the things that people go off of all the time is they want to be paid for their time, right? As an employee, you want to be paid for your time. you know, hourly or whatever that salary is. But when you're a business owner, you don't want to be paid for your time, because your time is invaluable. If you do that, you will undercut your business, right? So you want to be paid for the value. You want to be paid for, you know, the impact you're giving, what you're transforming, the quality of your product. That's what you want to be paid for. That's what you want to price your services and your products. Not how long it takes you, right? If I do a tax return and save someone $30,000, I'm not going to charge them just because it took me an hour to do the tax return, because that's not where the value is. It's how much I save the person. So as a business owner, when you're providing your products and services, think about what value you're giving, what quality, what problem are you solving for your customers, and that's what you'll price yourself around.
So before we go to you, that was such a hard lesson for me to learn. Because I kept, and I even said it here, I want to get paid for my time. So you see the mindset that I still have, which is employee, I'm clocking in and I'm clocking out, as opposed to the value added. And I have a coach, so I don't know how someone runs a business and doesn't. I actually have two coaches because I'm just hard-headed. But you know, it's something that they've been telling me. Try to not think of time, and exactly what you just said in terms of value added. What are you adding in price that? You know. Okay, Lucina.
For me, I have a saying in my business. Because there's so much noise out there, I always tell myself, anyone that cross path with me is going to learn something from me. I'm gonna let you leave my office smarter than when you come in. Whatever it is, I'm gonna meet you where you are and educate you on something that, whatever the noise is, I'm gonna show you, look, this is the best way to do it. This is what I would do if it was me. I don't mind if you don't use me, but you're gonna leave my office learning something that you didn't come with. That's what I focus on.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what I tell everybody who's about to open a business is knowing what type of business you're gonna want, the impact in taxes. If you are going to operate local or national, the type of transaction that you're gonna want, and then what give you the most tax break. Sit down with an accountant, with a CPA, with whoever tax professional that you can sit down with to tell you based on what you're trying to do, who you're trying to cater, what type of entity that is best for you to form.
All right, so I'm looking at the time again. It's just about 7:40, so we're gonna turn it over. Does anyone have any questions before? There you go, Jerome. Oh, Mr. Austin.
Yeah, I wanted to, for each of you to elaborate on the use of QuickBooks to organize yourself. Last night, this whole conversation is reminding me of my conversation last night with one of my accountants, because I'm actually looking at government contracting and applying for my minority business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise, and learning that the organization and the responsibility is greater when you're applying for your government contracting. And I literally got slapped around by my accountant last night because I was on Zoom sharing all these spreadsheets, and she's saying, she's Mexican. She's like, "Papi, you're so disorganized." And I'm like, okay, and I'm showing her, yeah, I am organized. It's just that I've got to literally pull things together. So she was telling me, what you need to do is get QuickBooks and organize yourself with QuickBooks, because I'm literally transitioning from W-2 to, being an independent consultant fully, and, yeah. So now, going the government route is like, and that's why I hired them, because they can slap me around. I pay them to do that, so I can get organized. Your experience with QuickBooks and your recommendation of that for startups or even existing businesses to organize their finances?
From there?
Oh, you can go.
Okay. So QuickBooks, right? So accounting software, and QuickBooks is the most recognizable one. It's a software built by accountants. I think back from like the 90s it started, right? And so accounting software in general is going to allow you to, connect to all of your business accounts, bank accounts, checking, savings, credit cards, PayPal, Stripe, everything that your business is connected to from a financial standpoint. And so you're able to categorize everything. That way you can create those financial statements. And the financial statements are the reports, the story behind your business. When she said she can look at the numbers and see what your business is doing, right? So once you create those reports, all of the accounting reports are in a standard format that says this is what income is, this is what expenses, this is what profit, right? So having that gets you away from the spreadsheets, gets you away from the disorganization, right? Because the biggest thing, aside from using it as a business owner to know what you did last month, try to make sure you're on top of your goals, how do I grow my business? Lenders, people who are giving out grants, people who are doing government contracts, investors in your
house.
business, you're trying to get a house. These are the reports that they're using to get all the information about your business. So although accounting software, QuickBooks, there's a few others like FreshBooks, there's also Xero. Although they seem simple and just minute to do, the impact on what they have because they produce the financials, that's why it's very important. So you say, hey, I'm getting all this cash, but you have to prove it. You have to prove it to these lenders. You have to prove it to these investors, people who are giving out grants. And so that's the big thing behind, QuickBooks or any type of accounting software to keep you organized so you can do those things and you can fill out your taxes as well.
Another thing with QuickBooks, a lot of people, they buy the software.
And don't use it.
They don't know how to use it. You have to be able to create charts of account. That's how they be able to pull the information that he's talking about. Because if you don't know how to create the accounts so that whenever the transactions are coming in, it will not do what it says to do.
Yeah.
So before you get started, you need to be able to know how to set up the QuickBook and set the chart of accounts to make it do what it needs to do for you.
I'm buying it, and I have a tutorial.
Good.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I was gonna say. That will make your life much more easier, knowing how to use the QuickBooks. Your accountant may set it up for you, but the data entry every day that you're doing, so you don't mess up. You can put the data in the right places.
Yeah.
So that you need that basic knowledge in QuickBooks in order for you to operate with it.
And then
Yeah, go
I was going to, the last thing I'll say, so, and when we say chart of accounts, so just think of it as buckets or categories. So if it's advertising, if it's marketing, if it's, meals and expenses, software, office supplies, those are buckets, they're categories. In total, they're chart of accounts. Chart of accounts is just the accounting term that they taught us in school.
Yeah.
But it's basically buckets and categories. So these aren't bank accounts. They're
Yes.
chart of accounts, they're categories. I don't know why they call it that. I just tell my clients they're buckets.
And it produces an aggregate total.
Total.
Correct,
Yes.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I know Jerome had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. One of the questions, more like adjusting your statement. This is what I'm running into, and a lot in the Haitian community, truck drivers, business owners, when I get on traditional workers, taxes are terrible. Like when I say, I'm gonna take one client example. One truck driver, line 31, net income of $130, negative $130. I have never seen anything like this.
Yeah,
I negative. The same guy said, "Well, you're a truck driver, right? You bought a new truck." I said, "But I don't see no depreciation." I'm going. I don't see, and I asked him, "Who did your tax?"
It wasn't one of the, okay.
I said, "My man, you have a business. You're a truck driver. You gotta get someone with an accounting background to do your business. You cannot go the average person that does refund, it's child tax credit, boom, this is what you make." I said, "No, you need to have someone with an accounting background to do your taxes. I'm sorry, you have a negative $130. I cannot get you a loan, not this year, not next year, I don't know when. You in the home
Yeah.
for $130,000.
Yeah.
The prior year, you were in the home for $30,000. You were in the home for $106,000. And keep in mind, Social Security,
Yeah.
IRS report that, Social Security, so you want to offer $106 Social Security benefits here. So, maybe you guys, I will advise you guys, maybe start getting social media, kind of educate people, and, especially those that have businesses, self-employed, you need to find someone with an accounting background. It'll make the job as a lender a lot easier. You position yourself to get a mortgage loan, any other thing, someone with a background. All right, so not only taxes, also what they say, if you cannot get a traditional mortgage, I can do bank statement loans, but it must be organized. I gotta see, it's like, you gotta be separate your business, your personal, what comes in, what comes out. When you organize, you give it to a lender, underwriter, easy to approve it.
All
So
right.
I will just,
Like,
Yeah, they all
Like-
wanna
You know
rebut.
what I'm saying? No, I know.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
To add to that, I tell them, when you file your tax correctly, you have a better chance of being successful, you have a better chance to own anything you want. Your business can grow. So a lot of Haitian people are like, well, my business cannot grow, my business cannot do anything. It's because that negative 130, you cannot advance. So,
So integrity counts, is that what you're saying? Like, we need to have integrity?
Yeah, integrity, the taxis, is kind of like you said, is a roadmap, to
the
success.
success.
And then it's help you gauge, how you're doing, how the business, is doing. Like if Rick answered your question, it's the mindset. A lot of these business owners, they don't separate, they still don't separate themselves, from being an employee and being a business owner.
The shift.
So it's the shift,
So-
the mindset.
When I asked him, his mindset was trying to get a refund.
Yes.
I said,
Yeah,
trying to get a refund. I said, the idea is not about it's about paying less taxes, not paying taxes
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's true, the mindset wasn't there, but, he called me this, I said, brother, man, I can't do anything.
In the interest
It's
of
sad.
time.
It's not that it was gonna feel good. I've found at least 5 individuals like that in the trucking business.
Yes.
It's sad. It is
Thank
very
you,
sad.
Jerome,
It is
thank
very
you. We're gonna go to, and I know you wanted to say, but we have 2 questions
Yeah.
over there, thank you. You wanted to
Yeah,
add
so,
some?
so I was gonna say, so that issue is basically the business owner trying to not pay taxes or get a refund or pay as low as possible. But you, as a business owner, you have to have the balance between how much taxes you wanna pay, but what do I want to do in the future? So I always ask my clients, are you
Tax
looking to buy a
planning.
house? Are you looking to do anything in the future? Because the lenders will look 2 years back, and they will average out those 2 years. So you always wanna have that balance between how much you're paying and how much income you're showing.
And again, it's not about avoiding taxes altogether. I think you had, now I'll come to you. Ronald, you had a question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, listen to all the questions. Great panel, by the way. Pretty good job so far. A lot of information. So I'm curious because I know a lot of us are in different phases in businesses or in our business journey. And I'm curious because I know I struggle with that a little bit too. When do we know we actually need to come to you all, right? That's a question that a lot of people, we struggle with, right?
Probably got
Starting
the same
with-
answer.
And you're like, okay, we're scared to ask a question because we don't want to look broke as a business. We're like, how much you gonna charge me to actually, So I want to kind of clear,
Let's say it
open
together.
that, discussion up because I want to hear,
The first day
is
together.
that something that we should
1,
be
2,
pursuing
3.
immediately, is there a certain time? And then,
It's that
shameless plug, we have Mr. Rick a couple of times too as well. And he's done work with the chamber, but that's a question that we talk about a lot as far as, how do I know when I'm ready to actually, especially as a startup?
So when do they
hire
come
an
to
accountant,
you?
Okay.
Come to you all, should I do it for
1,
the next first 6 months to a
3.
year and then?
Immediately.
Okay.
So just think about it this way. So when we say go to someone immediately,
The
you
minute
have
you're
different
thinking.
services you can pay for, right? So you can pay for, you may have an accountant where like, hey, I need a session with you. So it's a phone call and we can talk through some things, before you're ready to hire someone, or I just need bookkeeping, or I just need taxes, so find whatever price point you can be in, but go to someone as soon as possible at the beginning.
I call it tax planning. You need to, the minute you decided that you're gonna have a business, you don't know anything. This is a new territory. So you need to call somebody that's been doing it to say, hey, I'm looking into this. I want to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please guide me? And then this is what we are here to do. We will sit with you and give you step-by-steps that you can take before you are able to afford one of us. Because I know Rick says CPA is more expensive than me, so you can trigger down to me and I don't know to do them, but yeah.
Also break down, like, 'cause I know you said, there's different levels, but can you break that down so we kind of get an idea of, okay, is it one-time thing, do we have to put you on a retainer?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Can we just come to you during tax season?
But it also goes to all the cousins of Uncle Sam. So whether you own a business or you individually, you have to plan your tax season, starting from January. For instance, the tax season, to 2023, supposed to start planning now. It's not, when you come, at the end, trying to, for us to make miracles. So by then it will be too late.
I
So
want to actually add to what they said, because I've been on at least your website, and to answer your question, the way you have it, Lucida, is you have consultations, like she itemizes it and puts a price next to it, so you can choose the services. So before I come to you, I'm gonna ask each one of you to maybe talk about how to contact you. Like, do you have a website, a telephone number, so that at least it's part of the record and people can call you for a consultation and figure this out based on where they are in their journey? So I'll start with you. Do you have a website?
Yeah, so my website is modern-cpa.com. And so you go on there and you hit contact us. There's an area to put in your information. We'll schedule a call. If you reach out to me on social media, I'm The Profit CPA. And so, The Profit, Profit, CPA. And so I do everything by my calendar. You can schedule, and so you can choose consultation sessions, if it's a tax consultation, and so that way you can contact me there.
Perfect. Lucida?
My contact is laftaxes.com. Mine is pretty easy. The minute you walked in, it says book your appointment because I just want you to just come and talk to me and meet with me, and you'll have a list of things. You enter your information and it'll come to me. It's live. It's synchronized with my phone. So the minute you have the appointment, I would already know. There's no reason to call and tell me, hey, I would be sitting at my desk and ready for you.
Okay, mine is fasttaxrx.com, and you can also reach me at 770-513-0911.
Yeah.
All right, so, oh, wait, Lana had a question and then I'll come to you. I mean, I called you Lana.
That's
So,
okay.
Thank you.
It's a compliment.
Okay.
So anyway, I've done the 1099. That wasn't a problem. I've never, when you said pay yourself, I've paid the bills. I've had the receipts and everything, but I've never paid myself. So how do I do that without having to not pay my bills? Because the whole point of having the business is to pay the bills. So how do I pay myself and still pay the bills? So that's where the challenge is.
And the question, how do you pay your personal bills?
What do you mean?
I
I use
so
my checking account for everything.
that checking account is the business checking, or?
No, I have a separate business account.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, as your attorney, I advise you to plead the fifth.
Right now.
This is a cousin. We all cousins.
We're on record. We're
You're on
being
record.
recorded.
Yes.
Go on the website.
Okay.
Go on the website,
And
do a consultation.
Right, because I was saying, how do I
Yes,
pay myself?
yes,
That is my
yes.
question.
Okay.
I understand about paying
Commingling.
bills. I understand about having the records. I have everything is done electronically. So I cannot escape anybody, okay? Deposits, everything. But the thing about, I've never paid myself.
We
Like I
understand.
said,
So
know
if
what?
you
I
don't pay
deserve-
yourself, how do you
Listen now.
pay your bills?
I just pay the bill. I pay the bills, but what you're saying.
I know what
pay
she's
yourself.
saying.
Yeah, I know what you're
What do you
saying.
mean
Yeah.
by that?
She's saying the bills plus
plus
her money.
her money.
Okay.
Yeah, contact one of us. I will say for
Contact you.
I will say for everybody, in that scenario, the IRS will say you did pay yourself
Yes,
because you paid
You
your
paid your
bills.
bill.
You did pay yourself
Got you.
to their definition.
yes.
Okay, because you could do it separate, so you were saying that take something out separately and move it from the business to your personal, so you paid yourself, and then, but when you pay the bill, you gotta put it back in the business account?
would call us.
Well, call us.
Yeah.
That's where you're going.
One call, that's all.
Oh,
We'll come to you. What was your question?
My question is for all three, individually about I would like to know the team you guys have in place. So what I've been running into with the last accountant that I used, one-man show, and he's taking on clients, and he's all over the place, to the point where he asked me, who did your taxes? I was like, you did. And I'm just
bad.
stunned, and I'm in the market for a new team.
So Rick,
Yes.
So
we'll
I would
start.
like to, give me some background as far as your workload and your office staff and how you maneuver through all of that.
So how do we create confidence when we hire you?
The direct answer to the question, I'm not a one-man show, I'm like one and a half. So,
Yes.
so I use, I don't have employees, but I use contractors for like lower level tasks. So that way I don't get too bogged down, and I use systems as well. So like she mentioned with the calendar, that calendar booked appointment, it's on there. I keep good records, so then that way I know I'm following up with my clients and things like that from a team standpoint. So, but you'll always talk to me for the deliverables.
Yeah, I have an assistant. You will be talking to her first if you call my office. However, everything is electronically done now. I'm solely by appointment only now because I was a one-person show when I first started, and it used to be crazy. Now that my business changed, I don't see any client if you're not on my book, because I believe in giving you that personal experience, and that's what I thrive on.
well, yes, I have an administrative assistant, and I manage my workload, for over 20 years, pretty good. And yes, I will remember your name, and I will remember that I service you.
Another question?
Just a quick question. It's a little different since kind of focusing mostly on the small business and business prospect. I kind of wanted to switch a little bit on the individual piece, right? So as an individual, W-2, working and wanting to avoid the big tax at the end, let's say if you make over six figure, what strategy can an individual actually use to actually get in that?
I'll take-
The first is a deduction from a 401k contribution to a 401k, all right, or an IRA.
For me, I believe in growth. I believe in my clients being self-sufficient, because I would educate my client on steps on owning rental properties, because that's a way of allowing you to get deductions off your W-2s. So I will educate you on how to go on getting assets, turn the assets into business, and then turn your W-2s into, all that good stuff. So that's what I do. I create different strategies to help you with your W-2 to get you.
Yes, for individual, I can just reach out and consult you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, like you said, the retirement account, so you have on the individual side, retirement accounts, those of you who do have kids, right, you're gonna get that extra deductions there. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, the tax code is for the benefit of the business owner, right? And so all these deductions we're talking about, it's for the business owner, or like she said, rental property, because you treat a rental property like a business. And so, like I said earlier, Uncle Sam comes knocking first. He takes his money before you get it.
So if
Business
you're not
owner,
smart enough.
yeah, business owner, I take my money first, and
Yes,
Uncle Sam,
Uncle
then
Sam,
you get it. That's just the way it is. So, I have individual clients that do get to that 100,000, 150, even 200,000, and they're just
Paying so
they're
much.
stuck. Before the next, I have one client that he reached out to me because he had stock options. I think he works at Amazon or something like that. And so his stock options are gonna hit, and he's gonna get this $150,000 of income. He has no business. You don't have enough deductions to take out of that, yeah, so.
We have one more question. Were you saying something?
My uncle would be happy.
Oh, Uncle Sam would be happy,
Uncle
yes.
Sam.
Yes, sir.
So, quick question. I built my business for a trust,
Mhm.
and I operate in different states, including internationally. My question is, I just got audited, because I guess I'm from New York to here and here to Israel, and looking at patterns. Everything is under the trust. This is the CPA and attorney. The trust is protected. I know they can't come after me and so on, so what would you suggest?
And before they answer from a legal point of view, I advise all my clients to do exactly what you do. I say, establish your business, work with the accountant, when you're done, do a pour-over trust, because that can provide you with a lot of benefits, because you don't actually own anything, the trust owns it. But go ahead. please.
Yeah, so trust, that's another beast, right? So, because the trust has their own,
Identity.
identity. It's just like a business separate from you. So it will come down to when the IRS sent that notice, it come down to what specifically are they, let's say, accusing you of, but what are they kind of saying?
Trust.
Blind trust? Yeah, so it's kind of like what specific are they saying, like income that was excluded and things like that, and that's what you just have to address that specific item. So yeah, so you'd have to kind of look into it more in depth for, I think, well, at least for me to be able to answer, say like, what's the next step?
So
I'll
in-
let him handle that.
In terms of time, this is what we're gonna do. This is great conversation. Again, a round of applause for our tax expert. This is awesome. I look around the room and I must say I see everybody, and it's so awesome. This is why the chamber was created. This is what the chamber is about. It's to give you the visibility. And I didn't mention it before, Antonio is a legacy member. Thank you. Do we have other legacy members in the room? Oh, Jacques is a legacy member. Who else? I don't see a hand.
Yes.
Oh, Max. Take off my glasses. Oh, and then Darlene. So it's so awesome. Can you stand up and tell them a little bit what you do and the name of your company?
Hello, everyone. I am Darlene Joseph. I am the owner broker of Inspirational Homes. Actually, today, make it 5 years. This is amazing. This is my husband, Brandon Joseph. Full-time, we work together full-time. I'm the one up front, he runs the back. So, we've done a lot. We started with the community since 2010, right? And really, we are where we are because of our community.
Yes.
So we truly believe in community and yeah, that's who we are. So we help people buy, sell, and invest. And it's so funny that you're talking about that investment. I'm on TikTok, right? So someone asked a question about the taxes and all that stuff. Same answer I shared and everything. So you have to set up your business as a business. So this is great. Thank you so much for that.
Awesome. Thank you. Max, I know you're videotaping. Are you able to introduce yourself a little bit? No, you can't? Okay. Jacques, I know you're about to leave as a legacy member. You want to say one word?
No, he's actually gonna come.
Oh, you want to call? Okay, so any other members that we have in the audience? Okay, if you're not a member, we do have the LEAD acronym, which is L is for legacy. That's the highest that you can be. And those are the folks that I just introduced. Then there's the E, which is Excelsior. That's another level. Then we have A, which is Anchor. That's another level. And then we have the D, which is the directory. So we do have a website. Some people are not comfortable being a member. And we don't push membership because we know the chamber will speak for itself. If you get to know the chamber and you get to know the work that we do, you will join. So we don't even ask you to become a member, but what we do ask is if you have a business, take advantage and at least become a directory member, because then you can listen. It's only, what, $21. Jacques would kill me because he wants everybody to be a legacy member, but he's on the phone, so he can't say anything. With that being said, the other thing I will say is that the chamber is a 501c3. That means it's a non-profit organization. It does not belong to anybody. It is simply a platform that is put together so that you, each one of you, can make it as great as it needs to be, so it can serve not only the Haitian community, but also the community at large. Because we do work with the Jamaican Chamber and others from the Caribbean. Austin is here, you know, so that please join the chamber, follow the chamber, become part of the chamber. All of us that serve the community, that are on the board or serve on the committee, we are paid dues members. I founded the chamber, I'm a dues paying member. Jacques won't even upgrade me, even though I said, can I pay at the anchor level, because I just went off on my own, you know, I'm trying. He's like, I don't care, you either pay legacy or you're not legacy. I'm like, dang. Okay, so, but that goes to show you, we're all putting our money where our mouth is, so we ask you to just join, support. And Franz Boucher is sitting here, he was there from the beginning when we used to meet. We used to come to the State Bar back in 2011 and meet and talk about what this chamber should look like and how do we serve. And he always said, Franz, correct me if I'm wrong, the dollar needs to circulate in our community at least, what, seven times. That's how you build wealth. It's not about having money, because money comes and goes. It's about building wealth. It's about building a legacy for our community, for our children. That's why we put programs like this together, so that you can get the education you need, so you can build a legacy. So go to our website, www.gahcci.org, and get to see the calendar. You can see all the events that are planned for the year. We do have a year calendar on the website. This month was tax, because we wanted to start the year off properly. Next month, it's gonna be branding and marketing. So if you are a marketing company, these folks here, believe it or not, had to pay to present. So that's how we generate money. We put together the event, we cater. I hope you enjoyed the food. It was catered by Kathy's Catering. We pay for the location, we pay for the food, and in turn, we bring leads. So when I explained it to them, if you contact a marketing company, they charge you so that they can bring you leads. And then it's up to you as a business owner to turn those leads, convert them into clients. So that's the same thing we do, and we try to do it dirt cheap. In fact, if you're a member, you don't even pay. If you're a legacy member, right? Jacques, he's on the phone. But you can see, you can go on the website and see, because we're all about transparency, so you can read everything. But we encourage you to look at the calendar, see what event you would like to be on the panel for. And I think, but again, next month is marketing and branding. So we're hoping to hear all of you, to see all of you here. And we thank you, Radio Gas, for being here and recording this, and just making sure that we have the tape recording so we can put it on our website for future reference. Anything else, Mr. President?
Yes, I'm gonna have Jacques say something, but real quick, just want everybody to make sure that, again, before you go, we do have a few minutes. I wanna make sure that you all meet each other again, because that, there's some new people that walked in, but again, we're an ecosystem, so we wanna make sure you know who's in the room. If you don't, the rule was at least 3 people you don't know, all right? So before you leave, meet 3 people you don't know, and make sure you exchange information, okay? We also have, I'm also gonna let Jacques come up real quick and do an announcement.
All right, want to share a quick announcement, because we as Haitians, when something good happens in our community, we need to share it and make it loud. So tomorrow evening, the Little Haiti Supreme football club will be in town, okay? And they will be playing a game for the regional championship, because they are the Florida champions.
Oh, wow.
They'll be playing the regional championship right here in Georgia at
Nice.
MOBA, at the MOBA soccer complex. Okay?
Where is that?
I'm going to give you
Peachtree
guys
City.
information. Great question. But if you look up MOBA, it's on MOBA Drive in Peachtree City. Okay? So, if you want further information, we already posted it on Haitian Commerce, it's on our social media. But, what we like to do, I'm gonna give you guys the address where we're gonna be, but what we like to do is welcome them tomorrow evening or Saturday morning at their hotel. You know, they're very excited. I spoke to the president of the club, I spoke to their press person, and they're really excited to be here, and they wanna see us support. So tell everybody, the game is Saturday at 3 p.m. and it will be at the MOBA Soccer Complex in Peachtree City. And if they win this game, they get to go to California for the for the league's championship. Now, just so you know, they play in the United Premier Soccer League.
Wow.
Now, the United Premier Soccer League has about 100 teams,
Wow.
and they're number 1.
Wow.
Let's support them. Let me call out the address real quick. And so it's at 1000 Mobile Drive, Peachtree City, Atlanta, Georgia. And their hotel is at, hold on a second.
Jack, do you need tickets at all?
No, actually it's free. You know?
You said it's 1,000 what?
1000 Mobile Drive, MOBA, M-O-B-A. Yes, okay? And as far as where they will be staying, it's at the Hampton Inn, Atlanta Noonan, and that's at 50 Hampton Way, Noonan, Georgia, okay? So, let's support Haitian.
Thank you.
All right, and,
Anything to
last
close?
thing, you know, like Sandra said, I want to be very transparent. Look, well, of course, if you need accountants or somebody to do your tax or any general business advice, accounting-wise, I want to make sure that you all get their information, okay? Can we promise to do that? At least contact them, book a consultation, right? Okay? I want to make sure, because if you all are up here, we're going to do the same thing, all right? Like Frank said, and I'm glad Sandra, you already booked, good, good.
Hey.
Like Sandra said, and Frank pointed out, we want that dollar to circulate. So the same way that you're using them, they're able to get your finances together, well, now we can go buy a house right over here. Of course, we're going to go to Darlene and Jerome, right? Right? All right, if we need a photographer, we're gonna go over here to go to Lorna, videographer over here. Anything that you're doing, again, we want it to circulate. So there's enough for everybody to eat, we just have to know that, what each other is doing. And don't be selfish, it's okay. Spend the money with them. And if it's not good, critique them.
Yeah.
And let them know how it's gonna get better. But we don't tear them down, we just build each other up so we can be the best that we can be, okay?
Oh, that's it. Thank you for coming.
A round
And
of
I,
applause for the panelists, please, and Sandra. And make sure you capture
Good job, Rick.
yes.
wait a little bit. They already.
Oh, they did?
She's
Oh,
still out
okay.
there?
She said she's gonna consolidate it.
Okay, well,
You have to 8:15.
yeah, get the food from out
Oh.
there, but also make sure that you get to know each other. And I want to make sure I meet everybody out there. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
But that's what I mean. They charge you because they're not playing. 'Cause she has to be here, and so they pay them.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to pay them because technically the work day is over 5.
Could I have you here, take a picture with the president? No,
And I need
Good job.